Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And we do have breaking news, I don't know, like an hour ago, 45 minutes ago, before we hit record here. Come on, button bar. The button bar is not having it here today. We're going to have to put it in timeout. But before we get to that JJ McCarthy related breaking news and the usual write that down predictions, Judd, Quick Trip is a great place to start our day here, huh?
Yes, in fact, let's start without the breaking news, because this is not breaking news. This is something that we know, but it is a gentle reminder that if you are looking for breakfast, lunch, dinner, a snack, appetizers, guess what? Quick Trip has all of the above. Absolutely delicious food. If you are watching this right now, you could see the Quick Trip offerings. You stop in, guess what, too? It's like a grocery store, but it's fast and easy, so you don't spend all the time aisle to aisle. You go right to what you want. You pick it, and now you're saying, but what if I don't want to go inside? Sports Dad has the answer. You don't have to go inside. Put the app on your phone, and they will bring it out to you. Get the quality gas guarantee as well. Quick Trip, it's just making your life easier every day in a world in which life is not always simple.
Also, a North American banking company is the weekly sponsor of Write That Down specifically. It's a Minnesota-based banking company with 6 locations in the Twin Cities. You can stop in to the branches in Maple Grove, Roseville, Shoreview, Hastings, Woodbury, and 50th in France. And just in getting to know the team at North American Banking Company over the last several months, I noticed a few things. Very friendly, knowledgeable people, like actual humans that you can talk to, about your finances and things like that. They took the time to learn about me, my life, my wife, and our goals. And also, they prioritize the safety and security of your accounts, which may sound like it's like a no-brainer. You'd be surprised at some of the things that I guess we've had to deal with other banks. But check them out if you're looking for just a better checking and savings experience, or maybe something bigger. You're financing a home or a new business. Go to nabankco.com/Mackey to learn more. That's nabankco.com/Mackey. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Okay. One of two things happened this morning. Either the Vikings woke up and said, okay, we've had a moment of clarity. Kwesi at 5:15 a.m. gets Kevin on the phone and says, okay, it's all become clear to me now. JJ McCarthy is going to be our starting quarterback going forward. Or all of the NFL national reporters were given permission by the Vikings and the league and whoever else to put this news out here today. But we'll start with Tom Pelissero, NFL Network, reported the Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on JJ McCarthy, telling other teams they're moving forward with him as their quarterback, according to sources. The team plans to add a veteran, but they're not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. McCarthy now enters the offseason as QB1. And then Diana Rossini, who's done a ton of reporting on this Rodgers stuff the last 2 weeks, says the Vikings have strongly considered and will continue to monitor Aaron Rodgers as an option. Monitor him, like spying on him with hidden cameras. We're going to monitor Aaron Rodgers. But they're not ready to commit at this point in the offseason, according to sources. They understand this could lead to Rodgers signing elsewhere or retiring. JJ McCarthy's spring will be key. We'll do a deeper dive on this later in the show, but just quick reaction to this, and then we'll get to the predictions.
This is where we should have been from the start. Like Darnold.
I think it's where we were at the start.
Darnold was not coming back, right? But it feels like we were trying not to either hurt people's feelings, or we were intrigued because Aaron Rodgers might want us. The Vikings have here's my quick summing up of this entire thing. We can now go back to focusing on where the focus should be, which is that's the fact the Vikings are having, seemingly at least, a terrific offseason. They're killing free agency. It's funny. Coaches and teams go to players and talk about distractions. Don't let the distractions. We don't need distractions, okay? I hope that the Vikings learned from this, that this was nothing more than a distraction. They've done a great job. Now we can focus on what they're doing instead of the silliness that was always going to, or at least sanity prevailed, land with JJ McCarthy. And I did see a report today, too, you guys. Thank God he's gained the weight back.
Oh,
McCarthy.
so okay.
Yeah.
He's gained the weight
he's
back.
not going
Thank
to
you.
enter the season at 163 pounds, frail and unable.
Thank you, God. He's gained the weight back. It's a miracle he's gained the weight back. So anyway.
Get the flag.
Oh, God, here it is. Here it is.
A professional athlete put 20 pounds on.
Put it on quickly. How did he do it? So the Vikings must have a training staff. But anyway, I'm just glad that we can ultimately focus on the fact that this team is seemingly killing it in free agency and building a really good team for JJ McCarthy to lead.
Yeah. I will say the leaving of the door open here is because the Vikings are saying, yeah, right now we want to push forward with JJ, and we kind of talked about this last week. Let's see what he looks like in the OTAs, the mini camps, etc., and we can kind of go from there. If he looks terrible or gets hurt or something, and other options are available in August. So if you're Rodgers now, you have to figure out, do I want to drag this thing out and just see what happens between now and August? And maybe the Vikings or somebody else become an option, or does he just sign with the Steelers? I don't think he's going to retire. I don't think his ego will let him.
No, and I feel like I think part of this too is he called them, and I don't think KO likes to hurt feelings, especially of QBs. And it's almost like the Vikings were like, well, shiny toy, and we don't want to hurt his feet. Like, this is just one that to me on the Rodgers front, like at least the Darnold thing I totally got, right? He was great for you. You're going to try to make it as pleasant as possible. To our point from before, you want him to sign elsewhere for as much as possible. So the Darnold one I totally got. I was just calling BS on that one. This one to me feels like we don't want to hurt his feelings. He was a great QB. I think KO and Rodgers from the reporting are friends.
Yeah.
Just sort of something that the Vikings, I don't know. I'm just glad it's done. I'm really glad it's done. Yeah. It feels like we did end up in the spot that we should be in now, and we can all proceed and focus on the positives, which there's a lot of positives here.
Yeah, well, it's almost entirely positives. Like the only negative is more of a question or ambiguity about a guy that's never stepped foot on an NFL field in the regular season.
Sure.
And how can he perform? But we just went over earlier in the week. We went over a bunch of different. There are many more quarterbacks who are stepping onto the field after missing their first year and then being thrown into the fire, taking a team into the playoffs and maybe even further. Dante Culpepper in 2000, Patrick Mahomes, like taking teams to the conference championship game with no experience. There's more evidence of that than there are 41-year-old quarterbacks taking teams to a conference championship game. So I will say for later in the show, we'll come back to this because there's a couple other tentacles to touch on. But we received 24 hours ago, less than 24 hours ago, a really juicy email to the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line. And the fact that, let's just say this, the fact that Tom Pelissero in his tweet said the Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on JJ McCarthy ties right into the note we received to the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line.
So true.
Stay tuned for that after the Write That Down prediction. So, Dex, let's pop this bad boy up on the screen here and explain how this works to the audience. If you're new, maybe you've just discovered Purple Daily during free agency season, welcome in. Please click that like button, the subscribe button on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. You can also help us out, Apple and Spotify, by giving us a 5-star rating and a positive review. Every Wednesday, we hold each other accountable. Unlike any other show in America, we actually put statistics next to our predictions. It's called Write That Down. We do a football version here on Purple Daily, and we do an Anything Goes edition over on Mackie and Judd and the Score North YouTube channel. It's 3 Vikings or football-related predictions from everybody on the show each week. Like I said, we keep track of statistics, completion percentage, and touchdowns. And if you want to be like Donovan and participate as a guest listener predictor, you can send Declan a message through the Score North app. All right, let's see how wrong we were, or how right we were here over the last week.
All right. Oh, okay.
Not a bad week for Judd. You had a parlay that went awry. You did say that the Rams would release Cooper Kupp, and he will be a Viking. So you got that. But you did say there'd be a credible report that the Vikings are in discussions about acquiring Cooper Kupp. I'm giving you this because there was multiple credible reporters linking the Vikings had interest in Cooper Kupp. They were on a bunch of different lists. I guess if somebody wanted to debate the semantics of like discussions about acquiring, it's kind of a gray area, but the Vikings were linked credibly with interest in Cooper Kupp. So I'm going to say yes on that. Unless Dex wants to fight.
No, I think that's probably fair.
Okay. And you said long ago, like a year ago, Jamar Chase's next contract would top Justin Jefferson's average annual value. And yeah, he's over $40 million.
JJ quickly becoming a bargain.
Yeah, big time discount. It's great.
Incredible.
I had one thing off the board. I said Ed Ingram will not be on the Vikings roster by week 1 of the 2025 season. It's a Texan. Are you guys still shocked that the Vikings got something for Ingram but not Bradbury?
No. Well, at first, yes. The only thing that I will say is this. Bradbury's played so long now that I don't think if you're a personnel person, I don't think that you watch him and say, oh, I can tweak this and fix him.
Yeah, that's fair.
Ingram has played. He's a 2022 draft pick. So my guess is the Texans see something that they're going to fix it. And
yeah,
of course
he's younger.
Yeah.
And they think maybe they had him as a first or second round grade back in
maybe.
Back
and
in the
Bradbury's
day.
a Patriot now.
Yep. He's going to look weird in those silver pants. That Patriots helmet. Okay, Riley, for the listeners here, said the Vikings would... Oh, this is a bad beat, man. He said the Vikings would sign at least 3 players 28 years or younger within the first week of NFL free agency.
Oh, Jordan
Riley.
Well, wait a second, though. Okay, as I think about this, well, so the obvious ones are Will Fries, Isaiah Rodgers.
Yep.
A bunch of dudes on the wrong side of 30. They traded for Jordan Mason, but who was that safe? Didn't they sign a safety?
Bubba Bolden?
Is Bubba Bolden going to count here? Hold on a second.
You might be able to backdoor into this, I guess. Yeah.
I hope he does.
Bubba Bolden is 25 years old.
Okay, let's give it to him. Let's give it to Riley. That was a good. His heart was in the right place.
Yeah.
Also, like, why was Bubba Bolden one of the first guys?
It was hilarious.
It's like in your fantasy auction when, the first name that goes out is Saquon Barkley for $80, and then Devontae Adams for $60, and then the third guy throws out a kicker. $1?
Good for
Do
Riley.
I have $2?
If I'm not mistaken, if you go back to the first day of free agency, I think Isaiah Rodgers was the first guy that the Vikings signed that day. I think Bubba Bolden was second.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, like, of all the guys they signed, it's like, hey, guys, we got to land Bubba Bolden today.
Hey, who's on the phone with Bolden's agent? Hey, who's got Bubba?
What? Who? Who's got his number?
Get him on the phone. So we're going to reverse that one for the listeners. So the stats you'll see aren't going to be 100% correct here in a minute.
Riley.
Declan had a couple red things come off the board. You said Kirk Cousins would be on a new team by this week's. Write that down. And you said the Vikings would sign a free agent cornerback with at least 3,000 defensive snaps in the first week of free agency. Byron Murphy not counting.
Yep.
Isaiah Rodgers not quite to the 3,000 snap level. Mm-hmm. So with that, it's early here because the season runs Super Bowl to Super Bowl. So this is a small sample size alert, but Judd and I are off to really nice starts. 61.5% completions for me. Judd 53%. Listeners actually at 40%. Declan at 18%. The only touchdown is from me here. So plenty of time left in the season here. We're just laying the groundwork. Declan still leads the all-time career completion percentage category, 36.5%. Judd just a tick under 35%. I'm at 34%. Listeners, 24%. But the listeners, in lieu of accuracy, have the most touchdowns with 60 in their career. So
Jameis Winston's.
That's right.
Just throwing bombs.
That's more like Anthony Richardson. Jameis is a little higher completion percentage than people give. They're the Anthony Richardson. Let's get Donovan in here live from his car. Donovan, or someone's car. He broke into someone's car.
Yeah.
Donovan, what's going on? Give us your background as a Vikings fan.
Yeah, so my dad grew up in Minneapolis, but for the past 10 years, we've been living here in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So in enemy territory for sure, but excited for the draft, excited for John Randall's parade when we win the Super Bowl. And yeah, so just have had a lot of great memories as a Vikings fan. Got to go to the first preseason game at US Bank Stadium. Got to see the Immaculate Reception Part 2 with Garrett Bradbury at Lambeau Field. So,
Greatest
yeah,
moment.
it's been great. A lot of suffering, but a lot of ups.
I saw that play circulating back around on Twitter / X the other day. Just there he is, sweat dripping from the keister while he runs that ball 20 yards.
What's that like to be a young Vikings fan? And then of all the places that you can possibly move, you end up in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Yeah, a lot of my friends give me crap for it, but I know more football than they do, so I'm able to talk a little bit. But yeah, I used to go to training camps and wear all my Vikings gear and rep it loud and proud. So yeah, it's great.
Nice. Whew, that's gutsy.
Yeah, I think it takes a confident man to wander around Green Bay, Wisconsin, basically as just a living, breathing troll for them. So we respect that. So Donovan, we're going to start with you, then go over to Judd, Declan, back to me. We'll make 3 trips around the room here, and
Write this down.
yeah, you're up first here. Fire away.
Perfect. Sounds good. So I'd like to start off with our new guy, Jeff Okudah, and make a prediction that I think Brian Flores has a plan for him. So let's say Jeff Okudah, write this down, gets his 3rd career pick and first since 2022 in the Minnesota Vikings in 2025.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, who reported I think somebody reported this yesterday, that we talk about quarterback rehab school, that Jeff Okudah is being viewed as Brian Flores as cornerback rehab school.
Yeah.
And our guy Thor was putting up some college clips saying, man, like, you're going to be wrong when you're doing like draft prognostication, the Mel Kipers, like anyone, you're going to be wrong on guys. But Thor said he would have bet his life that Jeff Okudah wouldn't bust. So he the hardcore draft guys still he's 25, 26. There's still something there. The Lions were a dumpster fire when the Lions had not yet turned their culture over to Dan Campbell when they drafted him, right? So he kind of got drafted into this.
He got hurt too, right?
He couple times.
Yeah.
So
he's dealt with some injury problems.
It's an interesting one. All right, Judd.
Write this down.
All right, so in 2024, the Vikings had 4 rushing touchdowns that came inside the 10-yard line, okay? So 4. Aaron Jones had 3 of them. C.J. Ham had 1. Write this down. Jordan Mason will have more than 4 by himself next season. So Jordan Mason, just get a pinball, just run over guys. He's going to get the blocks now. The A-gap is in play for the first time in the red zone in a long time. So Jordan Mason will have more than 4 touchdowns that come from within the 10-yard line.
Yeah. It's kind of savage that Kevin O'Connell, essentially 5 minutes after the Vikings got bounced, Kevin O'Connell told everyone what was going to happen in free agency and trades. He was so mad at Garrett Bradbury and even like Dalton Reisner, and Blake Brandel. He knew at the podium after their season ended, wholesale changes here.
He had, I think he knew that like halfway through and had bit his tongue. And he definitely was going to bench Ingram at some point, which finally did come to pass.
Yep.
But I think at the podium, he just, And well, the best part is then at the podium, at the combine, he tried to walk it back. He's like, well, you wouldn't necessarily going to change everybody. It's like, no, you are. No, Kevin, you are. It's okay.
I didn't say we were going to change personnel. It's like, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, you basically did. Your quarterback got sacked 9 times against the Rams. 9 times.
It's ridiculous. All right.
All right, write this down, even though JJ McCarthy is now QB1 for now. The Vikings will sign or acquire a former first-round quarterback between now and the start of training camp. So a quarterback that was a first-round pick, they will sign or acquire a player between now and the start of training camp.
Joe Flacco was second round, right? So this would
No,
not
he was
count Joe.
First round.
I think he was a first round pick.
I think he was a first round pick in the same year. I think he was in Chad Greenway's draft, right?
Okay. Yeah,
I
out of
think
Delaware.
Out of him and Matt Ryan, I think.
Yeah, I think
Well, I mean, so really, yeah, it's a tricky way of dressing this up, but the options available are all basically former first round picks: Flacco, Tannehill, Carson Wentz, Jameis Winston, Trey Lance,
and it sounds like they might.
Drew Lock was he a first round pick?
Second round pick.
No.
Second round pick.
And this started yesterday, I think. The word now is they're probably going to try to trade for instead of sign a free agent quarterback.
Yeah, there's definitely some trade steam, and actually, this might be a great Feedback Friday talker, or maybe it's a Thursday talker. But there's some speculation that the reason why they're clearing cap space, again, this is the darkest corners of Vikings Twitter, and sometimes when I say that, maybe I don't give proper credit to wherever the rumors sourced themselves from. I don't have time to scour through every tweet that's ever been tweeted.
Unethical.
But I saw a couple things in the last 48 hours that, remember 8 years ago when the Texans regretted the Brock Osweiler contract, because Osweiler came in as this Broncos second round or whatever, and the desperate Texans are like, oh, we got our quarterback, let's sign Brock Osweiler, and then a minute later they're like, okay, this is not the guy. We want to dump the contract. There was like at the time $16 or $20 million left on it, and the Cleveland Browns came in and said, we can help you with that. We got a bunch of cap space. Why don't you send us – we don't care about Brock Osweiler as much, but we'll absorb some of the contract that you guys are regretting.
Yep.
And to do that, you give us a second-round pick. And then I think they did like a sixth and a fourth-round swap. Could the Vikings be looking at the Falcons and saying, why don't we absorb some of that? We'll bring Kirk in as our backup, and we will absorb some of that money.
I did see that.
But your tax for doing so is giving us a second-round pick or a third-round pick.
And then they just take on the...
So you trade for Cousins using your cap space that you've created, and you get extra draft capital.
That is a really intriguing thing. And the fact that you stole that from an unnamed Twitter person who now is just watching this and just rifling off a note about your unethical ways that you approach this show.
For the record, the reason I'm salty is it was Playmaker David. I want to give credit. He was the one that reported
I got accused too.
The Sauce Gardner stuff. You were on that tweet.
I was included in it.
And I thought we credited Playmaker David on the show, but maybe not on the social media clips. But we just want to, if you're going to come up with something on the internet, we want to make sure we credit you properly. So
on Flacco, 2018 or 2008 first round pick, 18th. So So he was actually drafted in the first round of the Kevin O'Connell draft.
Okay.
So, not the Green draft.
Old codgers.
Write this down.
All right. Write this down. I could definitely, the Kirk thing, we can come back to that. But I heard, just remember a couple days ago, someone hit us up, the Purple Daily Anonymous text line, and said that they thought they saw Carson Wentz at the airport, MSP airport. Now he's got family, is it South Dakota? Or well, he went to NDSU, but he's got family up here, basically. So he could just be like connecting. But I got a text yesterday from someone who shall go nameless, who said Carson Wentz sitting in MSP right now. I did a double take. It's for sure Carson Wentz. So Carson Wentz has been spotted by multiple people at MSP Airport this week. Again, could just be visiting family, who knows? But write this down. Carson Wentz will be a Viking between now and week 1 of the season.
Okay. All right.
Write it down.
Write this down.
And Declan's head's going to pop off his shoulders. Okay, back to Donovan for your second prediction.
All right, write this down. Coming off of Judd, I think Jordan Mason is going to help Aaron Jones as much as Aaron Jones is going to help Jordan Mason. So write this down. They will combine for 2,000 plus scrimmage yards this next season.
Yeah. Could definitely see that happening. Mm-hmm. And then
nice 1-2 punch.
And then you throw Omari and Hampton's 1,200 on there too, and we're talking 3,000. It's going to be crazy.
Oh, all right. Write this down. JJ McCarthy's first pass of the 2025 season to Jordan Addison. So his first pass to Jordan will go for 15 or more yards.
Okay.
So his first completion to Jordan Addison will go for 15 or more yards.
Sure. Oh, we have breaking Rodgers news.
He's retiring, hopefully.
Let's see. Adam Schefter, 33 seconds ago. Nothing related to Minnesota has altered Rodgers' timeline. One source monitoring Rodgers' potential decision said this morning that the free agent is still in no rush at all.
Good for him.
That's him trying to push back and be like,
Yeah.
I don't need Minnesota. I'm just doing my Aaron Rodgers thing here.
Dude, just retire.
Go away.
He always has to like be in control of
Yes.
Write this
Exactly.
so dumb.
Right this down. I'll make a couple draft predictions here. First one, though. The Vikings will make at least 2 day 2 selections in this year's draft. They'll get another one. They're going to get another one. So they'll have at least 2 day 2 draft picks this year.
Trade your way back. Pick up some
Write this down.
capital. I'll make a Jordan Mason prediction. Write this down. Very simply, Jordan Mason will have more rushing yards than Aaron Jones in the 2025 season. I think there's a good chance that maybe it starts with Aaron Jones getting the bulk of the carries, but either through attrition or just effectiveness, I think the passing of the torch will be clear as we get to the second half of the season. So more rushing yards
Write this down.
than Aaron Jones. All right, Donovan, third and final prediction.
Yeah, I like the reckless speculation about trading for a wide receiver too, and kind of bulking up that room. But I think they're actually going to do it with the draft. So write this down. The first offensive player that the Vikings draft will be a wide receiver, not a running back.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, I
Love
can
it,
see
dude.
that. Yep. Especially now.
Yeah,
Especially
and
now.
yeah, that would be. And as of right now, they still because they brought Rondale Moore came in for a visit, but nothing has come of that yet. So they're sniffing around options, but they've yet to land. They sniffed around Cooper Kupp, so they're clearly interested in like an actual third wide receiver, and maybe they do wind up signing a free agent. But it's a good prediction. All right, Donovan. Awesome job with your predictions here. Since you've got this gigantic, life-changing, life-altering platform here, is there anyone you'd like to thank that helped bring you to this peak moment?
Yeah, just thank you to my dad. I think that's a lot of how guys get into football. But yeah, just thankful for my dad and being a Vikings fan and just kind of showing me the ways of how to cheer for this team.
Love
Awesome
it, man.
Stuff, man.
Good luck, and hopefully we see you again sometime.
Stay strong out there.
See you guys.
Stay strong out there. Those
He's
Packer
like-
fans. See you later.
Yeah, it's like an undercover Purple Daily.
I know. How about going?
cop or something.
How about going to Packers training camp practices, which of course are packed with fans, and you got Vikings gear on?
It's pretty epic. Yeah,
That's aggressive.
everyone just smells like cheese
and beer.
stale light
Oh, they're
beer.
just drinking their beers all the time there along the rails where they watch practice. Yeah, that is awesome. How would you like to move though as a young Vikings fan, right? And like of all the places that your dad comes in and says, I got transferred, right? And it's Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Where are we going, Dad?
Yeah.
We going West Coast?
We're going. I can be a Vikings fan. It'll be great in Los Angeles or San Diego or New York or
Virginia. There's a lot of Vikings fans in Virginia.
This is gonna be great.
Right.
Where to? Green Bay.
Sorry, guys. Yeah. Sorry, fam. All right, we'll make our final predictions and then get to a juicy Purple Daily Anonymous tip line email here. A reminder, though, the 2025 Purple Daily Draft Party presented by Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. Tickets are available, and you can get them at scorenorth.com/draft. This is going to be, yes, like the draft has been the main character for the first 3 draft parties. I think we're getting the sense now that free agency and JJ McCarthy and just the state of the franchise is going to be the theme of the night. And yes, we will keep you all posted pick by pick, and we will have plenty of analysis on the actual draft. But you can get tickets at scorenorth.com/draft. And a shout out to some of our sponsors for this: Continental Diamond, Element Hotel, 2 Men in a Junk Truck, Roku, and we shouted out Standard Heating and Air Conditioning. So we wouldn't be able to do this event and continue to grow it and make it bigger every year and more fun for you guys, Purple Daily listeners and Vikings fans, without our partners. So thank you to all of them. Speaking of standard heating and air conditioning, Dex, how can they help our audience these days?
Yeah, if your furnace was on the fritz near this winter, heck, we might be getting another big snowstorm here on March 19th. Or if it's actually spring is coming here and you need to make sure that air conditioning is working appropriately, Standard Heating and Air can help you out there. Go to standardheating.com to make sure all those HVAC and all that furnace and that air conditioning is working properly. You don't want to be DIYing it. You don't want to be YouTubing that stuff. Instead, call our friends at Standard Heating and Air. They will help you out. They gave me the peace of mind when I was buying my home to make sure that furnace was in working order. So go contact Standard Heating, a proud sponsor of our Purple Daily Draft Party.
We actually had our last Unplugged event at Blackstack Brewing, and it was an absolute blast. If you've never been there, and some people saw, I think it was like episode 7 of the Minnesota Love is Blind, the Minneapolis Love is Blind, and you saw one of the couples and their friends hanging out at Blackstack's becoming world famous, is my point here over the last few weeks. So you can check out the second largest tap room in the state of Minnesota and why people rave about the beer and just the atmosphere and the tap room. I know we've got in our fridge right now, we've got some Pull Tabs Pale Ale, we've got the local 755, we got a Slopes French Pilsner in there. And during the season, Blackstack available inside US Bank Stadium as well. So check them out. blackstackbrewing.com to find out much more information.
Write this down.
All right, Joe, what's your final prediction?
All right, I'm going to get ahead of the firing game here because I love it. And I'm going to make a prediction for the 2025 season that will happen before it's over. And that is the Giants will fire Brian Daboll during the coming season.
Wow, no faith, man.
They're
I
going
think
to
he's
fight.
a good coach, actually. They just made a bad judgment on Daniel Jones.
But they're just a mess. And I think there's a fighting chance Joe Shane is terrible.
Yeah.
Like I think the GM is terrible. Daboll, I think, has been put in a position to fail. I don't think Joe Shane gets fired first. He might, but I don't think he does. So at some point, with the pressure there and the quarterbacks there, and I mean now, who are they stuck with?
Tommy DeVito, I think, is the only quarterback under contract.
But I mean,
right
Russ
now.
goes there. I don't know. I just think it's a mess. So Brian Daboll gets fired during the 2025 season.
Jameis signing there. Like, let's say they whiff on.
Epic.
Let's say Rodgers goes to the Steelers, and they're like, we can't do the Russell Wilson thing. And then I don't know. I guess they could draft Shedeur Sanders, but it would be kind of funny though if the tenure of the Giants general manager and Brian Daboll as a head coach was tied to Jameis Winston largely in 2025.
Oh, it would be completely epic as he throws, 5 touchdowns in one game, 6 picks in the next.
Be wild.
The tabloids would love him too.
Write this down.
He's not even like controversial anymore though. He's just kind of a fun.
But he's goofy. I think he's like a goofball. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Write this down. I'll make a draft prediction. Ashton Genty will be a top 10 pick in this year's draft. So right now he's kind of his best draft odds are to the Bears, and the Bears have the 10th pick. He's at like plus 140. So he's, as of now, kind of a borderline top 10 guy. I think he will be a top 10 guy. In fact, obviously the Bears do make a lot of sense there, but write it down. He will not fall out of the first 10 picks. He'll be a top 10 pick in this year's draft.
I saw a tweet from a draft guru this morning that said that Hampton is actually now almost even with Genty as far as the scouting community is concerned.
Interesting. Yeah, well,
I don't know if it's
Kuiper
true,
had both guys in the top 15. I think Hampton wasn't Hampton to the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys missed out on Genty and then.
See, I know our guy moved the sticks. He had him going to the Raiders at pick 6 in his mock yesterday.
Ashton Genty. Okay.
Genty. Yep.
Write this
Interesting.
down.
All right, I feel like I have to put my write that down prediction money where my mouth was last week. We had a big argument about the Bears on this show, so I'll go on the record with my Bears negativity and say that just quite simply, the Chicago Bears will not make the playoffs in 2025. Okay. They will not make the playoffs.
I got an email from a guy a couple of days ago who said that he loves Phil, but Phil is totally wrong and that the Bears are really good.
Okay, was it from Rami Makloff, our old
No,
Chicago
it was not.
baseball?
I looked at the name. No, he just thinks that the Bears are far more competitive. It was funny too because like I completely forgotten about the Bears thing because it's the Bears. I don't
Was it
really
from
care.
a Johnson, Ben that emailed the show, or
Did
or
you
was
guys
it-
see the photo of him last week side by side?
Yeah, it's
So it's the day
Was
that he
that
took
real?
the job, and you look great. And then I think it was from the combine. I think it was real, sure.
I think it was real. I know.
It literally looks like it looks like those before and after photos where like a methamphetamines hotline or something. It was
Well,
like
you
was
know
he
what?
like missing a tooth?
The
It was
coaches,
weird.
the coaching before and after is as close to the presidential as you can possibly get. Like, hey, here's the
Way
president
more
on
gray.
inauguration day. Hey, everyone, I'm the president. And the next thing you know, he just looks like he's got the weight of the world on his shoulders. That's coaching.
Circles under your
KO
eyes.
has looked. KO looks young,
KO's yeah.
and he's in great shape. But he definitely, like the day that he got the job, and now you could definitely tell the stress.
Yeah, McVay and Kevin O'Connell seem to have. All right, they find ways to. I don't know. Maybe they just like exercise in the morning
they
and
exercise
eat
a lot.
better than some of the other guys. But
Yep.
so, all right, those are the write that down predictions.
Write this down.
The accountability session, the only show in America that actually has the stones to put stats next to our predictions, so you can see how wrong we are on a regular basis. Okay, let's go back to the McCarthy stuff here, and specifically a really juicy note that we received to the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line. You can always email the show, the feedback tab in the Score North app. If you have a friend whose wife has a cousin who works at CAA in California who represents a player that the Vikings have called on, send us a note. We'll vet it. We got the sports dad here, former lead Vikings beat writer. He can sniff out your
That's all I
BS
do.
via email.
All I do is vet.
But we all kind of agreed that this one passed the smell test. I will preface by saying I do believe that this was percolating, what I'm about to read, but I also believe the reports that came out this morning that any conversations that were had via trade are over right now, and they want to see McCarthy in the springtime. But you remember a year ago, we got an email right around this time from somebody specifically saying, you're going to think I'm crazy, but I have a connection that told me the Vikings and the Chargers are talking about a Justin Herbert trade. And I think we had a couple follow-ups. We did a couple episodes on it. People thought we had jumped the shark with reckless speculation, thought we were crazy. And then Adam Schefter came out on draft night and said, guess what, everyone? This is going to sound wild, but the Vikings and Chargers had trade discussions about Justin Herbert. So I bring you this email from Anonymous yesterday. Greetings, Purple Daily. I hope this email finds you well. Thank you, Anonymous.
Which it did.
It did, yeah.
All three of us were doing great. Thank you.
Really well. Mm-hmm.
I would like to stay anonymous because I don't want to get my connections in any trouble. I do have a couple connections to the Vikings organization, and they always hear little bits and pieces of possible trades or personnel additions. Both connections reached out to me very excited and told me almost identical information. I had asked them both separately if they knew anything about the money the Vikings were saving to the salary cap this season, but neither of them knew. But they both reached out to me and told me about a big trade that was supposedly happening. I thought, got to be Sauce Gardner or maybe a Dexter Lawrence, a big defensive player. But they both said no. Quarterback. From what my connections were telling me, the Vikings are still very interested in Justin Herbert and were close to finalizing a deal. They didn't know what picks or players were being traded, but it was going to be big. The trade should be these are his words. The trade should be finalized before the NFL draft next month. If this happens, the Vikings would easily be a Super Bowl favorite. Again, this was sent yesterday. Now, it's possible his information is coming in before. He's also an anonymous guy who's just emailing the show.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't think Adam Schefter's running with this, but Purple Daily is
We
because we're
entertain
just
us.
having fun here, you know?
That's right.
We entertain it.
But then this morning, Tom Pelissero and other national reporters came out and said, hey, any sort of discussions about Rodgers? But Pelissero said the Vikings have rejected
Right.
trade offers for McCarthy,
Right.
which makes this tie-in even more interesting to me. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God, this is juicy. So We know for a fact a year ago that the Vikings called, so that's a given now. That's on the record. And now, if you think about it, okay, Chargers got done, and it was certainly successful with Jim Harbaugh in his first season with Herbert at quarterback. But to go back to our discussions previously, Chargers like to run the ball. They're going to run the ball more. Herbert's coming off a playoff game that was pretty much a disaster. JJ McCarthy is here. I completely believe that the Chargers would have picked up the phone and made that phone call.
It almost even makes more sense. It makes
Yes.
sense from the Vikings' perspective a little bit because you have this crazy talented quarterback in Justin Herbert that just needs there's another level to get to.
And I'm sure O'Connell's convinced he could get him there too.
100%.
So that's not going to be an issue for him.
And you would wipe away the uncertainty of this Super Bowl ready roster with a guy that you really like, but you've never seen actually drive the car before.
Yep.
So it makes sense from the Viking standpoint, but it also makes, to your point, even more sense from the Chargers standpoint because we don't even really drive this car very often. We were fifth from the bottom in passing attempts.
Yep.
And we're paying $50+ million a year. So super interesting.
So from a cap standpoint, what? Post June 1st trade?
It would have to be a post June 1st
can't be
designated
before,
trade. You could agree on it now, but
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so, yes, in this case, I would guess that the Chargers made the call, but the Vikings certainly aren't going to. That's one that you would not hang up on. And I could see also, just to throw another wrinkle into this entire reckless speculation, I could also see a come to Jesus after the season in Los Angeles where Herbert's like, Jim, I love you. Like, you're a great coach. I love you. But I don't know. Like, you like to run the ball a lot. And JJ would fit right back in. I am totally buying that this is I'm going 60% possibility that this is, that at least transpired. Not it's going to happen, but that it transpired.
I think if it's going to happen, it has to happen before JJ McCarthy, before you open the box of cards here. Like JJ McCarthy is an unopened box of cards, to go back to that analogy from 2 weeks ago. Yep. I think you're right. By the end of the year, is it possible that Justin Herbert by the end of the year is like, I mean, what are we doing here? I'm fourth from the bottom in passing attempts, and I want to sling the ball around, but that's not what Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman do. But if you get to that point, you're going to know what JJ McCarthy is much more than you do now. If he plays his ass off, you're not trading him for somebody that makes 6 times as much money. And if he falls on his face this year, would he be even close to valuable enough to trade in a deal for a Justin Herbert? So, like, if it's going to happen, it has to happen basically in the next month or two.
Who are the other teams you think? Because, like, a couple come to mind to me that maybe potentially called on McCarthy. So obviously, like, San Francisco's in this situation with Purdy. Like, do they want to pay Brock Purdy, or do they want to start a new rookie scale contract and want to give Purdy the keys to someone else? You go pay Brock Purdy. I think that one's intriguing. I think the Rams are intriguing as still a succession plan from Stafford out, even though they just kind of brought him back. I'm trying to think of other teams that probably at least facilitated that phone call.
I think you nailed 2 of them. So
Yeah.
because Pelissero said the Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on McCarthy, I think we can pretty safely trust the Purple Daily Anonymous tip line that the Chargers were one of them.
Sure. Yeah.
And that goes back to last year. It's like it's confirmed that they've had discussions about Justin Herbert.
Right.
But Pelissero didn't give a timeline on this. I'm sure during the Matthew Stafford uncertainty before he signed back, there's a conversation there. Maybe hey, we'll give you Matthew Stafford, you give us JJ McCarthy.
Yep.
And we push forward. But the Niners make a lot of sense too, because if Brock Purdy's camp is like, we want $55 million, we want near the top of the market, and the Niners are like, well, that's ridiculous. We can't. We're already like eroding our roster with age and guys who are too highly paid. Would they rather have a $55 million Brock Purdy or a rookie scale contract JJ McCarthy? That's a good one.
If I'm the Vikings, I'm hanging up on San Fran because I'm not going to take Brock on. Like, I'm not going to pay him.
Agreed. I'd rather have McCarthy on a rookie scale all day long. Yeah.
I also bet the Giants called when the Darnold thing was percolating. So to me, the phone calls actually would have come in far more with the Darnold thing, right? Because the Vikings are like, we'd like to keep Darnold. We're going to offer him a contract. Well, if you're going to take that at face value, if you're the Giants, you got nobody. For sure you call. For sure you call. And the question then is, did they offer the third pick in the draft?
Well, let me ask you this. Let's go back. Now that cards are up on the table here, when the discussion was about a $45 million a year potential contract for Darnold, before we knew exactly what the value was going to be,
Yep.
it's just a hard no. Like, you don't bring it back. But now that you know it was a $33 million, he's making half of what the top of the market quarterbacks are making. If the Giants offered the third overall pick for JJ McCarthy, so you could have Sam Darnold at $33 million a year, and the third overall pick and the 24th overall pick, but you say goodbye to JJ McCarthy, would you have gone back and facilitated those moves?
I personally don't think that I would have, but it also, to what you're saying, which is very possible, it also shows that the Vikings were never going to bring Sam back. Because
that price is so much lower than anyone could have thought 3 months ago.
And to defend you a bit, at the combine, the Vikings shopped Sam. Like, they were like, okay, we'll franchise him, trade him to you. You can lock him in at $40 million per season for 3 years or something. And everyone said no, right?
Yeah.
So like the Vikings clear, and this is again where the Vikings were selling a lot that I'm not buying. Like, I don't think Sam Darnold was ever coming back. And now it is off the record, of course. Shh, don't tell. I told you this. But CAA is now saying, well, Sam left because the threat of McCarthy playing in Seattle, he'll have a bit better chance. If the Vikings truly believed in Sam, they would have traded McCarthy.
Yeah.
And if you could have got the third pick, that's a hell of a pick to get. So this sort of solidifies, in my opinion, that Darnold was never going to return here because the price point did end up for a quarterback being so low. But no, I don't think I would have traded. I don't think I would trade McCarthy. You drafted him 10th. I think you need to see what the kid can do.
Agreed.
And I have a lot of faith that he's going to be good.
But there is a level of uncertainty, and I'll throw another team out real quick. The Raiders would have made a lot of sense. The Raiders were desperately looking for a quarterback. They wound up trading for Geno Smith as kind of a 1 or 2 year. Pete Carroll's familiar with him.
Yep.
But you got Michigan man Tom Brady, Michigan man JJ McCarthy, and sitting in that 6th spot, you're not guaranteed Cam Ward or Shadur Sanders. I wouldn't be shocked if the Raiders picked up the phone and said, we'll give you the 6th overall pick. You guys you're going to bring back Sam Darnold. We'll give you the 6th overall pick for JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. And I for sure say no there. The one, too, that's a bit of a curveball because it came late, but I'm not buying the timeline, is the Seahawks. Like, I don't buy that some point really late in the ball game, Seattle sat down with Geno's reps and was like, oh, my God, he wants that much? No way.
Yeah.
I think that the Geno thing was unfolding. So the Geno Raiders trade might have sort of been preordained, which would have made a lot of sense. That the Seahawks would have called about McCarthy before they signed Darnold, too. So I bet they did get a ton of calls. I guess the question is there any one of those calls that would have intrigued you as far as a trade? The Herbert contract I don't want. Like, I want to see what a quarterback on a rookie contract with 4 years left basically can do. But that being said, I would not be surprised at all if the Vikings were the most intrigued, given that they clearly had a previous interest in Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Super fascinating. I know we got to run here, but just real quick. Daniel Jeremiah was brought up by Dex moving the sticks. He has a new mock out here on NFL.com, presented here on this show by Federated Mutual Insurance Company. So Federated's it's like hiring a better offensive line to protect your business. It's kind of like what the Purple did last week. So you are a business owner. You are super busy. You are trying to grow your business. Federated comes in and helps you grow your business through risk management, a focus on safety and preventing claims. Federated has over 100 years of experience in helping businesses and navigating choppy waters as needed. So if you're interested in just better frontline protection, face-to-face, eye-to-eye relationship with your insurance company. Federatedinsurance.com to find out more, where it's our business to protect yours. So, okay, Daniel Jeremiah always has a little bit of a different twist on what he sees for these mocks. He's very plugged in. He's got Cam Ward going to the Titans at number 1, Abdul Carter to the Browns at 2, Shedeur Sanders to the Giants at 3, Travis Hunter, Patriots 4, so kind of chalky here. Ashton Jeanty to the Raiders at 6. He has, let's see here. Let's scroll down. Okay. Kind of chalky here. Omarion Hampton to the Broncos at 20. Jackson Dart, quarterback, Mississippi, to the Steelers at 21.
Wow.
So now we got Kuiper and Daniel Jeremiah throwing Jackson Darts into the first round.
Little cricket.
And with the 24th overall pick, Daniel Jeremiah has the Minnesota Vikings selecting out of South Carolina safety Nick Emanwari. Emanwari.
Just said super quick.
Emanwari. Yeah.
There.
So they get a young safety to potentially take over for Harrison Smith. So there.
All right. Odds that they take a safety.
I think he's a little bit more of a hybrid. Like he kind of a Flores fit from what we've been reading. But I wouldn't rule it out. I wouldn't rule out like a hybrid secondary guy. I think they would trade back in this scenario unless they thought he was a real dude.
I agree with that.
All right. Juicy show here. Predictions, JJ McCarthy, updates. We'll have a festive Thursday episode tomorrow.
I'm trying to get KO. I'm like, tell PD. What's the plan?
Yeah.
You got to get on those group text threads.
He hasn't texted me back. What'd I ever do to him?
Yeah, you got to get on the group text threads, man. It could be like Diana Rossini, Adam Schefter, Tom Pelissero, Ian Rappaport, and the Sports Dad all reporting the same thing.
I'm SD, Sports Dad.
So, all right, thanks for hanging out with us here on a Write That Down Wednesday, Purple Daily, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.